Hi guys, it's a nice morning. The sun's coming up. I haven't had much sleep, but I figured I'd continue with this series. They have a billboard up there by St. Rose, which has gone out. It was a college, a private college. They invite people to reimagine the area, St. Rose. It's been a while. When I was here as a college freshman, I lived in the downtown dorms, and this was a pretty nice area to live in. But you can look around now and every building is in need of repair. Every single one of them. I don't know how these housing or code inspectors get away with this. Oh, that's right. They're up on the lake next to my vacation property getting drunk. Yeah. Having sleazy parties with the guy next door who works for cops, I find out 20 years later. So these people have been partying and having a good time, and now there's no money in the budget. Wow. Yeah. While the nonsense goes on here where these people aren't paying property taxes. You'd think they'd be owning their own home and fixing it up instead of pounding on the floor all morning long, waking me up and telling cops how crazy I am. I owned property and vacation property in rentals, and I never treated people this way. Yeah, so we'll do some journaling today. 5 years of being homeless and in shock, and I thought that was the worst of it. Not really coming to terms with the fact I have no real income now except Social Security. Yeah, you see that? Yeah, they want women to be home, but who's going to pay for this? Yeah, who's going to pay when these men, this is April 11th, this is Saturday, happy Saturday. So these men are out there telling women not to be educated, not to have careers, not to have jobs. Who's going to pay for all this? There's no money in the Albany budget now. There's a hiring fees freeze. Maybe if they start laying off some of these cops that think this is funny, too busy up there partying with my neighbor. These people don't pay property taxes. I was paying property taxes, and I certainly didn't treat my tenants like this. I had rentals, vacation property. I owned my own home. So this is what's going on here. I'm not saying people in apartment buildings shouldn't have rights, certainly. But this nonsense of keep calling the police and telling them that someone's crazy and banging on someone's doors pretending to do wellness checks, y'all ought to be pink slipped. You think it's so funny to have your career destroyed and have no career and no income, and you don't own your own home and you were counting on rental income for your retirement? I don't know. It seems to me you ought to be more concerned with property taxes than harassing landlords out of the community. Because that's what I was in Amsterdam. We're bleeding population, but, uh, it has nothing to do with manufacturing anymore. Manufacturing left when I was 5 years old. I was a little girl when manufacturing left. It's been 50 years since downtown Amsterdam was really vibrant and had businesses and pages of flats and rentals. And you could move out to 15 minutes one day and you'd have a new place the next day. Now they put you through absolute hell. And this is what you face when you're trying to, go in a different direction or, try to pursue my career again, which I was told I was never a professional. I don't have a career. I'm a prostitute. I'm a whore. Maybe we ought to clean up the language first. But I guess when there's no money in the budget, I guess you all consider, it's a joke. And again, I'm not just pointing at one profession because this is like a system of this. Certainly social services, certainly the hospital, because it's only the middle that work, So now what? They have to start laying people off, pink slipping people. Maybe when somebody's really in an emergency and needs a first responder, there won't be someone there for that person because these people are too busy here playing games. Criticizing me. Well, I owned my own home. I owned vacation property. I owned rentals, which should be part of my retirement. And that was, what I tried to do when I first got married, but was told that it was Mr. and Mrs. So we'll continue with talking about economic abuse. We'll continue with owning homes, having careers. These people all think it's funny around here. We're bleeding population. We've lost St. Rose, our college here, a private college that brought a lot of income. Every apartment, every building here needs work. I mean, I walk around the neighborhood now and I'm shocked at how these houses, years ago, people worked their entire life to have a two-family. That's why it was called a two-family. They weren't flipping and, thinking it was a big joke to own, it took your whole life to own a two family. And now those are disappearing. The fabric of our neighborhoods are disappearing. People move in and out because property isn't being maintained. Then you got people that all moved to the suburbs and none of these properties were maintained. The one over on North Main, he was actually doing construction while I was trying to live there. Then he stole my security. You don't do construction while a tenant is trying to live in the place. So, this is the state of housing around here. If you want to reimagine St. Rose, I think the first thing to do is make sure people have housing. Around the corner, this poor young woman was living in a death trap and ended up perishing. What a horrible thing that you're worried about your life in some of these rentals, let alone the fact that a lot of these buildings are in disrepair. I'm not blaming the current landlord. You buy something, you slowly fix it up. But why weren't all these main properties being maintained? Oh, I know, that's right, because the housing inspector up there was partying and having a good time stealing my property, which was allowed to go on. Now I'm here and, I'm seeing the state of housing here because I'm trying to get rentals. I'm trying to pursue my career again. And it's all a big joke here. So I guess when people start getting laid off because there's no money in the budget now, maybe it won't be so funny. And maybe you'll stop making nonsense calls and harassing people and accusing them of being crazy when they're not doing nothing but trying to live their life. Because maybe one of these days somebody's going to need emergency services and we're not going to have the personnel there because this is all continues to be a joke. Property taxes, investments in the community and so on and so forth. These men want everybody home, but they don't want to work either. They don't even make enough money to take care of a pet. So, we'll continue this series because, I don't get any sleep and I'm still trying to hang on to the life that I have as far as a professional that owned property. I was a good landlord. I would have never treated people like this. I never did. Take care, guys.